presenting the Redbeard Podcast. You are now hanging out with Cooley.
Welcome to our town, he's the coolest guy around. Come on, scream it out, it's Cooley. He's gonna break it down, tell you what's up in our town. You are hanging out with Cooley.
Happy New Year, everybody. You are hanging with Cooley on Friday, and it is the first episode of the new year. Welcome to 2016, people. And we bid a fond farewell to 2015, which was an amazing year for geeks, wasn't it? We got so many movies, so many TV shows. Just to name a few, and this is really just scratching the surface. We had Avengers Age of Ultron. We had Ant-Man. We had great new seasons of Arrow, The Flash, The Walking Dead, The Strain. We had the premiere seasons of Into the Badlands, the Netflix Marvel collaborations of Daredevil and Jessica Jones, and what the fuck else? J.J. Abrams woke up the motherfucking force, son. That shit awoke to phenomenal numbers. I'm pretty sure it's already about to cross the $2 billion mark, and I think it's been out for 3 weeks. That's fucking insane. So bravo J.J. Abrams, bravo Disney, and sorry George Lucas. I know you think you sold your property to white slavers or whatever the fuck you said, but bitterness never looks good on the face of a legend. So cheer up, man. Be proud of your kids. Don't think that you got rid of them. Just watch and enjoy and see what they do next, because they are blowing this shit out the fucking water. I love it. We also got amazing video games like Fallout 4, Transformers Devastation, Star Wars Battlefront, which gets an asterisk because while I enjoy going to Hoth, that shit is fucking boring. It looks absolutely beautiful. I feel like I stepped onto the scene of pretty much all these different Star Wars worlds that they're putting together, like Hoth and Endor and Jakku. But I can only enjoy running out there and getting blasted in my head immediately, just so much. And so gameplay wise, I'm not so enthused with the game, but the actual overall feeling of it is definitely very Star Wars. So they're heading in the right direction, but whatever. So I put it on my list, but I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with it. But then you also have Rise of the Tomb Raider, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, Metal Gear Solid: The Phantom Pain, Just Cause 3, Rainbow Six Siege, and my game of the year, and I'm not alone in this, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. That was a game put out by CD Projekt Red, and that is a team of developers that really knows how to treat their fan base. We got, 18 pieces of downloadable content for free. The game itself was absolutely complete, but for an additional, $29, you get 2 more parts of the game, which actually is about, in whole, they actually equal about half of the original game. So you get 1.5 games out of this shit. They really, really, really cared about putting out the best product that they could put out, and bravo to them, and hopefully more developers and more publishers follow suit. And Marvel Comics, who just happens to be my favorite publisher, if you guys haven't picked up on that, actually gave us a refresh line of books just to tear it all down and give us another refresh that made it truly the most culturally diverse superhero universe in the history of comics. Finally, a superhero universe that reflects its real-world demographic, man. Bravo. And DC also did this, but less effectively. Unless you happen to be the biggest asshole to ever run for president, you're probably right there with most of us that could not possibly afford the money or time needed to keep up with everything 2015 had to offer. And you might see it as an embarrassment of riches, a wealth of entertainment for you to catch up on between now and the next Star Wars film, right? But guess what? That next Star Wars film is in about 12 fucking months. And before it even hits, you're going to be punched in the face with Deadpool, the rest of The Walking Dead Season 6, Arrow, S.H.I.E.L.D., Flash, Daredevil Season 2. You're going to get Batman v Superman and Captain America Winter Soldier and X-Men Apocalypse. You're going to get Preacher and Legends of Tomorrow and Supergirl, and that's only January through May. I think I left out Agent Carter. What the fuck? We just don't have time for this, man, but we're going to make time, aren't we? We're definitely going to fucking make time to sit down and watch all this shit at some point. It's pretty crazy. I mean, if you think back to when you were a kid, and I'm talking to people 30 and up right now. I mean, think back to when there was nothing but dramas and romance and action cop flicks and, detective stories and whatnot. And then there were superhero movies. But remember, the best one was Batman, right? Watch that shit now. Go ahead. Seriously. Just go watch it. Michael Keaton was great. So was Nicholson. But that shit was a farce, because superheroes weren't taken seriously at all. And just imagine if Keaton and Nicholson had a chance to work with a writer or director like, say, Joss Whedon or the Russo brothers. And, okay, fine. I'll throw him in there. What the fuck's his name? Zack Snyder. Whoever, right? Like, if he got to work with one of these guys that didn't really try to emulate what they saw in the 60s Batman TV show, right? And just make it darker. Remember Superman, the movie with Christopher Reeve? It's the one where he had to fight the evil Remax agent. I'll be honest with you, I love that shit just as much as everybody else. But you know what? We didn't really have anything to compare it to, so we didn't have a choice. We're so spoiled now that movies like Fantastic Four get made and we crucify them. And that's not to say that the latest one didn't deserve to be skinned and gutted before getting tied to a cinder block cross and thrown into the middle of the fucking Atlantic. But the first two from Fox, while nowhere near the quality of today's Marvel movies, would have been pretty fucking amazing if they came out in the 80s or 90s. Visual effects limitations, I'm not taking those into consideration, but let's just say that the visual effects were possible back then. I mean, it would have been way better to watch them with nothing else surrounding them. Sure, Doom would have been mishandled and whatnot, but we forgave WB and the Donners for Lex, didn't we? We kind of had to. And is there a point to everything I'm saying? Not really. There's never really a point to anything I say. Maybe it's just a little esoteric musing to provide some perspective to myself and others like me who are so quick to call a comic book movie a piece of shit if it gets something wrong. I mean, for every Fantastic Four we get, there's also a list of 4 or 5 movies that get it right in the same year. So what I've done is develop a guide for myself. Basically said I'm not tearing films down that don't honestly deserve it. Basically, I'm not gonna bore you with the minutia of it, but much of it is a lot like Rick's view on AMC's The Walking Dead. I basically have 3 very important questions that help me decide whether or not a film is worthy of not shit consideration. So basically, the first question that I ask is, does it take the source material seriously? The second question is the villain treated with as much reverence as the hero? And the third question is the story strong enough to overcome negative responses to the first 2 questions, right? So if the story's not strong, then you absolutely have to nail the first 2, right? So you have to at least take the source material seriously and at the very least treat the villain with respect, because the villain is basically supposed to be the equal and opposite of the hero. And that's what makes a great villain. For Charles Xavier, you have Magneto. For Batman, you have the Joker. For Spider-Man, you have the Green Goblin. And I mean, these are all characters that are literally the equal and opposite of their antagonist. And if you don't get that right, then your hero is only as great as your villain. I mean, if you're fighting a fucking real estate agent, then I'm not really impressed. I'm not super impressed with your abilities. I mean, like, it doesn't put you in this realm that's above and beyond, what a normal human. You don't need all the power of Superman to fight the Lex Luthor of the Superman movie, right? I mean, it was awesome to watch. I mean, Christopher Reeve was fucking amazing as Superman. He was awesome. You truly, and they say it, you will believe that a man can fly, and you did. I mean, it was brilliant. It was beautiful. It was amazing, and the whole idea of his upbringing and all that, and that's what number 3 comes in, where the story is strong enough to overcome the negative responses to the first 2 questions, because number 1 was accurate for Superman. It took the source material seriously. Number 2 was not accurate. But, like, number 2 was a negative response. It did not treat the villain with the same reverence as it did the hero. But number 3, it had a strong enough story to overcome both. So Superman stands as one of the best superhero movies of all time. Right? Same thing with Batman. But Batman actually nailed the first 2, and the third one was kind of hokey. Right, so you could slip a little bit on the story, but the first 2 were strong enough that you actually, can give it consideration as being one of the best superhero movies ever. So, and this is where those 3 things come in. And of course, the latest Fantastic Four movie failed on all accounts. But if I can't get past these 3 questions, I won't even go into how great the effects were or how great an actor was in their role. And my dad always said, no matter what you do or how hard you try, you can't polish a turd. Case in point, 2015's Fantastic Four again. I hate to keep going back to the well, but as long as there's fucking water in it, right? It's widely known that this movie didn't take the source material seriously. The villain was shit on, and the story was literally not at all a fucking story. I mean, seriously, that had no ending, right? Now, the effects were really eye-popping, jaw-dropping stuff, and Kate Mara and Michael B. Jordan were fucking excellent in their roles, and they really made their shitty dialogue and stage directions look good in much the same way that makeup and Photoshop can make an average Tinder user look like a perfect 10. But none of that matters, right? If the story sucks and the characters aren't really the characters and the villain is unrecognizable, none of it fucking matters. So yeah, that's basically the formula that I'm going to be using to review the stuff that's going to be coming out this year that we talked about earlier, like Batman v Superman, which I wasn't going to give a chance to, but as I talked about on Redbeard Podcast, I did, do some digging and spoiled the movie for myself. However, in spoiling the movie for myself, it ended up making me want to give that movie a chance to actually succeed, because it sounds like it's actually intelligently written. So we'll check it out and see. I don't think it's going to really hold a candle to what Marvel's doing, but we'll give them a shot. In other news, and I mean news, this is like national fucking news. This is funny. There's a dude in Dallas that got caught, right, tickling people's buttholes in their sleep. Now, take a second and marinate on that shit. All right. This is a guy who basically breaks into people's houses at night, sneaks up to their bed, tickles their buttholes, and I'm guessing, because they didn't really get into the details of this, but I'm guessing he fucking bounces after he tickles your butthole. Picture the cartoon sounds in your head, right? He's tiptoeing in the house and you hear the right, the little creaking sounds, and then he tickles your butthole, right? And then he dips, right? Little cloud of smoke. And the dude that got his butthole tickled is just sitting there what the fuck? Somebody just tickled my butthole, right? Now, what's fun... I'm just picturing this shit in my head. What's funny to me, right, is this shit happens in Dallas. This is in Dallas, Texas. It's a red state, which means that people own guns, right? And I'm trying to picture this in my head. It says it in the article that this guy is infamous for tickling people's buttholes at night, right? And it's to the point where people, guys, are going to bed and sleeping on their backs instead of their stomachs. So that's, first of all, I can't understand how that's the solution that you come up with as a man living in Texas that could potentially get his butthole tickled, right? At night by a stranger, some strange dude, right? your solution is to sleep on your back